So as it stands, we are talking about P versus NP today. Okay, so if you like computer science in any capacity, there's a chance that I've at least once dreamt of finally solving P versus NP and claiming those beautiful $1 million. But just in case you're not aware of the hype, this is my little attempt of explaining you what P versus NP exactly is. Also, I'm not kidding when I say that there is a $1 million prize for anyone who manages to solve this question. It is a thing. So, before we move any forward, let me give you a little incentive as to why should you even know why P versus NP, why this thing exists. So, think about it in this way. If P really is equal to NP, the world would be much more efficient than what we know it to be today. On a darker flip side, every encryption in the world would be rendered useless. So basically, there's a good chance that if P versus NP is actually solved, and if it is proved that P indeed is equal to NP, we would lose our life savings at any point in time. Apart from that, it's a really bright thing. Give me some time, I'll explain it to you. Also, just a side note, if you're a fan of Sherlock, and if you have actually seen Elementary, that US version of the BBC thing, it actually has an entire episode dedicated to P versus NP. And I'm not kidding when I say this, they have actually explained the entire problem in quite an engaging manner. Okay, so what is the basic idea behind P versus NP? And what would it really mean for P to be equal to NP? Very good questions. So let's tackle them in a rather simple way for the time being, and we'll build a knowledge in order to satisfyingly answer them towards the end of the video. Okay, so for starters, let's just say that if P is equal to NP, then if verifying the solution of a problem is easy, actually solving the problem should be just as easy too. Confused? Think of it in this way. The Rubik's Cube. It's very evident that this cube is solved. But if P is equal to NP, actually solving this monstrosity should be just as easy as verifying if it's actually solved or not. Make sense? Okay, so first things first, let us understand what exactly a mathematical problem is. After that, we'll try digesting the notion of a solvable problem and an unsolvable problem. Okay, so in mathematics, a problem is either solvable or it is unsolvable. So what's the big deal about it? I mean, if something has a mathematical solution, it is solvable, and if something doesn't, it's unsolvable, right? Well, yes, but actually no. Okay, so in order to make sense of this, let us look at a little problem known as the Königsberg Bridge problem. So basically, consider 4 land masses and consider 7 bridges joining each one of them. Now your task is to start from any of these 4 land masses, cross the bridges exactly once, and return on the very same landmass you started on. That is, if you start from A, you have to go across all the bridges, and at the end of the day, you must return on A again. Okay, so this problem was solved in 1735 by none other than Leonhard Euler. And the way he did it will actually teach us a lot about solved and unsolved problems in mathematics. We actually understand algorithms and make use of them and get to the crux of P versus NP. So if I gave you these random set of numbers and if I ask you to arrange them in ascending order, it'll hardly take you 30 seconds to do so. One possible way could be to look at every number and then look at the number to the right of it. And if the element to the right is smaller than the one on the left, you can simply swap it. So after one iteration, this is what it will look like, and after another iteration, it will be solved. Sounds pretty convenient, right? But was that really a good approach? I mean, if you see the worst case time scenario of these kind of problems known as quicksort, you'll get the answer of order of n square. That means that for 100 numbers, 10,000 steps might be needed. Not very efficient, definitely not efficient. Okay, bear with me. This may sound a little complicated, but try to understand this. Now, what if I took more complicated numbers, but instead of blindly comparing them, I divided the entire array in half and I kept on dividing them till I got singular numbers. Then I actually saw the numbers on the adjacent side to each other and I combined them while sorting them simultaneously. After an iteration, this is what I get. After another iteration, this is what I get. And after the final iteration, I have my answer. This technique is known as merge sort. Sounds a little complicated, but guess what? The worst case time complexity of merge sort is order of n log n. That means for 100 elements, you need no more than 200 steps. That is so much better. So, what did we really do? I mean, the problem did not change. We had to do the same thing over and over again in both the scenarios. The point of this entire thing was to show you that for the same approach, a lot many different things and a lot many different algorithms can be taken into consideration. Now, in case of P versus NP, this is the entire set of NP problems. NP problems are basically the problems which can be solved in exponential time or less. Inside of this set, we have the NP complete set and the P set. NP complete sets are the toughest to solve, and none of them have been shown to lie in the P set. P set are the set of problems which can be solved in polynomial time itself. But some NP problems have shown to be solved in P time. So what does P equal NP exactly mean? That's a wonderful question. So if problems from the NP set have already been shown to be solved in P time, doesn't that mean that P is equal to NP? Well, it would seem so, but that's not the case, because when we say NP, we are actually referring to the NP complete set on top of it. Okay, so try to understand this. When I say that an NP problem can be verified in polynomial time, it means that once the problem is solved, it will take me a polynomial time, maybe n log n, maybe n square, but something along these lines to actually verify it. But to solve that problem, it takes me an exponential time, that is a number raised to the power of n. And it makes a whole lot of difference when it comes to our day-to-day lives. We have established that there can be more than one way to approach one problem. So, if even a single problem from the NP complete set is shown to lie in the P set, that would basically mean that we can devise an algorithm which can prove that NP is equal to P. Now, what will that do? Well, for starters, that will completely change the way we look at world economics. What I mean by that is production would be exponentially faster. Machine learning will take the biggest leap it has taken in its entire journey. But on the flip side of it, encryption actually depends on the hypothesis that P is not equal to NP. And if P is equal to NP, all of our precious data will be lost at that very moment. So how do we conclude this little discussion of ours? Well, most scientists believe that P is not equal to NP. But as we have already established, and as Euler very well said, that until and unless a problem hasn't been mathematically disproved, we cannot write it off for sure. It might just be possible that we don't have the tools today to solve the P versus NP problem. But if this problem is ever proved solved, or if this problem is ever proved unsolved, it sure will change the way we look at things around us. Thank you very much.